Hello, everyone, and welcome once again to Wrestling Addicts, the show where we talk about anything and everything in the world of wrestling, past, present, and future. I am Jimmy Anderson, and joining me, as always, Big Rich Walker over there, the great sports Morpheus, as he proclaims himself. And he's usually right. He's usually right. Yes, absolutely. And we got Rafael Guzman over here to my immediate right, and on my left, former 13-time world heavyweight champion in the independent scene. That is Al Rage Walker. All right. And this week, we're going to be talking about the Attitude Era of the WWF, one particular era that helped sort of save that company in the ratings, especially when WCW and the WWF were going head-to-head on Monday nights, and they decided to take it in a new direction. And, you know, we were talking about before the show, you guys feel that Austin's promo after the King of the Ring, where Austin 316 says, "I just whooped your, you know what," and that planted the first seed, I think. But really, I think in 1997, by the time Raw is War came along, when they changed it, they had the Titantron, the ramp, the concert-type lighting. Personally, I think that planted even more seeds, and then it just kind of grew from there, I think.
I think the Austin 316 promo definitely kicked off the Attitude Era, because after that, if you look at like Shawn Michaels and Triple H, when DX started, they started doing all these outrageous stuff. So to me, that set the bar for that.
And I think the other thing that stood out with that as well is the outtakes behind the scenes. It was stuff that you didn't see, you know, in the earlier days. Like the only thing that you had really that was sort of off cue with things like Piper's Pit.
Yeah.
You know, but you start seeing more like, you know, DX out in the Jeep and you know, Stone Cold out drinking beer. You know, those kind of outtakes that added to the storyline. So I think, you know, the Attitude Era was more and then it gets credit for about the evolution of the writing outside of the ring. It's all the elements that they brought in. You know, they got more creative in their script writing, and they evolved these characters a lot more, and they, you know, had more edge to them. So I think that's, you know, when we speak of the Attitude Era, it's not just the things that they did in the ring. It's
the combination of the Attitude Era was the fact that you still had the veteran wrestlers in charge of script writing, being backstage, and they knew exactly which talent to go out and pick. So you had all these great mixtures, and once they mixed together, I mean, history shows for itself how great it was. Matter of fact, I hate that they changed it from the Attitude Era because it still could have been running today.
Let me ask you guys this. Okay, WCW, the WWF were going head-to-head. Obviously, the WWF needed to change direction. And I think, Al, this is more for you, because you were there at the time when they started the Attitude Era. A lot of people attribute it to Vince Russo. Now, how much did Vince Russo really have in terms of an impact on the Attitude Era?
No, it was Vince McMahon.
That's what I was saying.
Vince McMahon is the kind of person, it doesn't take him long to figure out how to fix a problem or how to create something. So Russo came along and he attached and added on to it, but Vince McMahon was the one that, figured out, okay, let's go to this level. He's not willing. Vince McMahon is the kind of person, he's willing to try anything that's going to work or may not work. He's not afraid to go outside the box.
But now it seems like that's not the case. Is he not as involved now with it as he used to be? Because now they're really stagnant.
I think Triple H is in charge now, because even now, like, you know, Kurt Angle tried to go back to WWE. And he went to Triple H, and Triple H said no, so he went to Vince, and Vince pretty much told him, you need to talk to Triple H.
And I think that was a mistake. I really believe somebody like Kurt Angle would also add to what's going on, and he can help guide the younger guys. I think that was a real big mistake for them not to bring him back.
Oh, definitely.
I think another problem is that they're in reverse. They're trying to figure out how to dig themselves out of this PG-13 era, because the reason they ended the Attitude Era, in case you guys forgot, when Linda McMahon jokingly called herself trying to run for Congress.
Yeah.
We all knew damn well she wasn't going to win. They wasted $40 million on her senator campaign. And it was an attempt to clean up the image because they knew that what they were going to attack was, well,
but the Attitude Era was awesome. I mean,
yeah,
should have kept it. I mean,
but it was all political, because, you know, they were afraid that one of the things that, you know, her opponents was going to attack was like, well, you know, you got this company that, you know, does this edgy production and guys curse and is violent. But there's plenty more other things to attack about Linda McMahon besides the company that she runs. Yeah. She has no experience. She doesn't have a background. She's not very intelligent. We can stop right there. You're done. You know, so I mean, why change the company for that?
You even said PG-13. I don't even think it's PG-13. It's like PG.
It's PG, yeah.
Seems like. But to me, that's not the problem. The problem is the writing. The problem is the character development isn't there, and that they're all trained the same. They look the same. They sound the same.
They slammed the brakes on the Attitude Era, and you know they just literally just stopped it. And now they have to, like I said, they have to try to figure out how to reverse course and how to dig themselves out of it. And then in the same time, they alienated a lot of people, you know, that were involved in the Attitude Era at the time when they were, you know, running it. So you can't go back to those people now, and you burn a lot of those characters as well as you went through this process of creating these.
See, the thing about being in the business and what people need to understand, especially if you're in Triple H spot, you can't be personal. It's about business. They got this slogan now, what's best for business. Well, if it's really what's best for business, then number one, if Kurt Angle say, I want my job back, give me a shot, you should have brought him back.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it shouldn't be about, you know, I got an issue with you or whatever.
It's an ego thing.
It shouldn't be about that. If it's really about what's best for business, then do what's necessary for the company and for the people that spend their hard-earned money to come watch this stuff.
That's one of the things I got to say. You know, people talk about Vince, but you got to admire that quality about him because Vince can hate your guts and you can hate his guts, but he can find a way to make it work. I mean, for him to find a way to make Bret Hart, at least forgive him enough to where he can come back and work with him for the sake of business. I mean, if he can do that, then certainly they can find a way to bring it back.
Yeah, because that was all real. That wasn't no.
That was real hate.
That wasn't no joke about that. That was
the Montreal Screwjob.
Yeah,
you know what though? A lot of people, even a couple of the wrestlers, Nash and X-Pac in particular, wondered if some of that was a work. I mean, here they are in Canada, and they're asking him to lose. And
I mean, what better way to screw Bret Hart than to do it at his hometown?
Right, exactly. See,
so
that's what they're wondering
what better way to not do it? If you're gonna be mad at somebody because they're leaving and going to another company, what better way to do it than embarrass them at home?
But you know what happened after that? If you guys recall, Rick Rude was with DX at the time. He was on Raw and Nitro the very same night.
That's right.
And he did that because he was pissed off.
Right.
And he had a contract with WWE, or they were going to renew it, and he decided not to. He went with WCW.
Yep.
See, that was the problem with them having taped Raws versus a live Nitros. And that could happen, and they were still doing it that way at the time. And that's something Eric Bischoff would take advantage of, and they'd spoil the results of a Raw as they're doing a live Nitro.
It was a real war, that's for sure.
It really was, yeah. And, you know, I don't blame him for being upset, you know, Rick Rude, because, you know, if somebody like that, you know, if they were close and everything like that, you know, then...
but that's because at that time that was a Monday Night Wars. WCW was trying to be on top, and then that's when the Attitude Era came in.
They were for a while.
Yeah.
So you have to remember that Vince McMahon had it in for what's the guy name that owned
Ted Turner.
Ted Turner. I mean, that was personal. You know, they didn't like each other at all. So
I think that goes back to the deal they had on TBS back in 1984 and 85. They had a brief deal where Vince took over that territory of Georgia Championship Wrestling in that time slot. And, you know, the ratings were bad anyway. Turner pulled out, and Vince made promises he didn't keep in terms of having live wrestling matches in the studio. Yeah, go figure. But, you know, going back to that Montreal Screwjob incident for a second, the reason I think that Nash, as well as Waltman, you know, X-Pac, feel that some of it was a work is because of the fact that Vince McMahon sold that punch, you know, where Bret Hart punched him backstage, and he came out the next night and he had the, you know, the black eye.
'Cause he got punched.
Yeah.
Really?
no,
He really got punched, though.
Right. No,
He
I'm
got
not
hit for
saying that
real.
he didn't, but why would he put over a wrestler leaving like that?
I
With a
mean,
punch?
like I told you before, if it's hot news,
Yeah.
Vince is gonna ride it, even if it involves himself. Everybody, the whole world was talking about it, so why try to hide from it?
And I think they were on the way out. They were trying to villainize Bret Hart.
Of course.
There you go. I think
If he looks like the aggressor, they're like, oh, well, Bret Hart's being a jerk, and you know he didn't do. He was trying to do. You know, they were just doing their job, and he trying to make it like.
Because he left from there and went to WCW, right? He left.
Exactly.
So what better way to not, you know, paint a bad picture of the guy to go into your rivalry company?
What better way to get ratings?
Exactly.
Because everybody wants to know what happened.
Exactly.
So
That's where the whole Bret screwed Bret thing came in, didn't it?
right
Yeah.
after that, yeah. Right after
exactly.
Screwjob.
But But another thing I liked about the Attitude Era was the fact that it was unpredictable in terms of the characteristics of the wrestlers. Like, you know, they had that double turn at WrestleMania 13 with Hart and Austin. The thing is that Bret Hart was supposed to be the babyface and did babyface type things, whereas Austin was being a heel, but he was being cheered. People were cheering the bad guys and booing the good guys, it seemed like. So everything was kind of up in the air.
The show was that good. Now, when you can put on a show where you can have a bad guy become a good guy right there in live in color, you know you're doing a fantastic job.
Exactly, and I think that that just really changed things as far as wrestling business at that time, and with the Monday Night Wars going on, and with the NWO and all that, I think that it was awesome at that time.
Most definitely.
And even the language kind of started getting out of control, didn't it? The swearing.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
That didn't bother me personally. It probably bothered some others, but didn't faze me too much, you know.
I think with the Attitude Era, a lot of parents didn't want to take their kids to go see the shows and stuff.
Yeah.
Mainly it was mostly like for high school kids or, you know.
Preteens.
Yeah.
Tweeners, which is what
they loved it. They definitely ate it up.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, we're going to go to a break here in just about a minute or so, but after that, I definitely want to get into 1998 and the way it affected wrestling. Whereas in 1997, WCW was still on top. You know, you still had the NWO. That was really the hot thing that was kind of, you know, giving Vince a run for his money. And then Vince had to counter it somehow. And he came up with that sort of Jerry Springer approach later that year. And it took off. It was just phenomenal.
It worked, all that worked, because it really got the attention of the audiences and stuff. So,
Well, see, you know, you got to remember too. You have people that was hired simply to go in the back and watch TV and see what the other guy was doing. You had a guy that worked for WWF that was watching Nitro, and you had a guy from Nitro watching Raw. So they was making sure, taking notes, see who was doing what.
All right. I tell you what, we're going to take a quick commercial break, and then we'll be right back with more Wrestling Addicts. Stay with us.
Out of these troubled times, our fifth objective, a new world order can emerge, a new era.
Sitting in the seat, talking to you in the video scope for the Wrestling Addicts here. Sitting next to me is the big Hulk Rich Walker. Dig it!
Well, let me tell you something, brother. You're gonna sit down in your chair every week and you're gonna tune in to Wrestling Addicts because we give you the best coverage out there, brother, about everything involving the squared circle and anything in industry. You're gonna watch this show and you're gonna get the best in the business, brother. You can guarantee you that.
You don't watch, I'll give you an elbow drop so bad it'll broke your throat just like that did Ricky Steamboat. Yeah, and if Raphael Guzman and Al Rage Walker are out there, you guys better be watching this too because you are fellow wrestling addicts just like me, the unmacho man Jimmy Anderson, right here on Wrestling Addicts on this station. Dig it!
All right, we are back with more Wrestling Addicts. Jimmy Anderson along with Rich Walker, along with Raphael Guzman and Al Rage Walker over here. Now, we were talking about the kind of first seeds being planted of the Attitude Era, and now I say we get into the 1997-98 era, which we kind of started to touch on with DX being formed. around SummerSlam '97 after Shawn Michaels was the referee who helped screw the Undertaker out of the title, and Bret Hart ended up winning it. Isn't that a little ironic?
Right.
And then they had their series of matches. Hell in a Cell came along, and Bret Hart made the comment that Shawn Michaels was a degenerate, and Hunter Hearst Helmsley was with him at that point, along with China. So they decided to call themselves D-Generation X, and it seemed to work out. And I'm going to be honest with you, I didn't like that version of DX. I thought it was a little too risque.
With China?
No, with Shawn Michaels.
Oh, Shawn.
Yeah, it was a little too bathroom.
It was real sexual, like
I didn't like it.
Perverted kind of stuff.
Yeah, it didn't appeal to me. I don't know what you guys thought of it, but
I mean, at the time that this was going on, it was pretty much if you looked at the time period, it was Generation X was pretty much a setting for what was going on outside of the ring with the public and the music, everything was going on. It fit right in, you ask me.
Yeah.
I think it worked out well because at that time they had a lot of audiences that they were getting their attention and stuff, and the women and all that, and so it was pretty cool.
This was the censorship era, the birth of that. Tipper Gore put the label on the album. Adult content required. All that stuff was going on at this time. And so
it was more reality based.
We know that Vince is a prostitute, and so I mean, it was weird. Vince's like, this is hot right now. It'll piss a lot of people off. Yeah, let's go ahead and do this and ride the wave and get the free press off.
See, Vince is a master at keeping the interest going, and so if people start, let's give you an example. If people start setting the house on fire, okay, we're going to put a house in the ring. We're going to set it on fire.
Yeah.
I mean, whatever's going to keep people talking, they're going to try it.
Didn't at the time USA Network threaten to cancel their show?
They
and
did.
Shawn Michaels and
But then when they saw how the ratings was flying off the roof, then you know what, y'all just go ahead and keep doing what you're doing.
That's what it's all about. It's about ratings. It's about the dollar signs, and they were certainly making them. And you had DX and you had the NWO on the other channel. At that time, they were pretty nip and tuck, for those who remember. And I don't think they were trading off, were they yet, in the ratings? I think they might have been.
WCW was winning at that time.
Yeah,
they were for the most part.
When Hogan went over to WCW at the time, WCW was over WWF.
Oh no, you're right. Yes,
that
they had
was
the 80s
huge.
plus. They had the 80+ straight weeks. Yes, you're right.
Yeah, that was huge.
Because that's when Hogan turned, or when he was still a good guy?
That's when, when he originally went to WCW.
That was big.
Like I think they ran a couple of nitros where he was still yellow and red Hogan.
Yeah.
Because it was at Bash at the Beach that he turned, and the Outsiders came in. Nobody expected
that goes
Hogan.
back a little to
When
1996.
When he turned, I mean, that was a paradigm shift in wrestling history.
Yeah,
When
most
Hogan
definitely.
turned heel and joined the NWO, that changed the game. That was supposed to be the kill shot for WWF.
Yeah.
I've never seen audience respond like the way they did when Hogan turned.
They were throwing trash
That
in the
ring was
Yeah.
full of trash.
Yeah.
That was. I know they had to have extra security to be escorted out of there because
One
that was
fan got
unbelievable.
into the ring and had to be arrested.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean it was serious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was sitting down watching it on TV, and I had my mouth open because I didn't see it coming.
Yeah.
You know, it was good. That was real good.
Yeah.
That was one of those moments where, like, you remember where you were when it happened.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember while I was watching Nitro, I was like, Hollywood,
Nobody expected
Hulk Hogan?
Nobody expected Hogan.
And I mean, he's just blasting the fans and, talking about how ungrateful they are. And I mean, that shoot was just timeless, man.
Yeah.
Timeless.
Now let's fast forward to today, because a lot of people want to see John Cena turn heel. But the problem, I think, is that his fan base is still too young. He doesn't have an older fan. Hogan, his fan base from the 80s, they had now grown up into the 90s. Now they were in that rebellious stage, so whenever he turned, it made sense. I thought.
They're not going to turn Cena heel because
I don't think so. They
They're not.
can't.
I don't think he wants to turn heel.
I don't think they can.
I don't think he. When I saw the way
Right
he
now,
talked to
anyway.
Heenan, I mean, I saw the way he talked to help me out here,
Which
Paul Heyman
Heyman.
on Monday Night Raw. Did y'all see that? You see
Yeah.
the way
I didn't
Johnson?
watch it this past
You need to watch that. He was talking out of his heart. It wasn't even a script. When he was talking about the Make-A-Wish Foundation, all that kind of stuff. He was talking for real.
That's why they're not going to turn him heel.
No, his character is too personal for him. I don't think we're going to ever see him turn heel.
I don't think they have to turn him heel per se. I think they can make him more rebellious though. Because I mean, I think that
give him a more edge.
Yeah, what I think the older generation like us, especially those that've been through the Attitude Era, the thing that we don't like about John Cena is that he's too.
His 5 moves.
He's too clean. Well, I mean, but Hogan can wrestle either.
Yeah.
What did Hogan do?
Well,
big boot, leg drop.
Look at his
clothesline.
look at his Japanese match. Wait a minute. Now look at his Japanese matches. Now he uses holds.
Yeah, but
over Japan.
I mean, your cookie cutter Hogan match was not,
you're right.
a technical wrestling.
Vince didn't want him doing that stuff.
No,
yeah.
But if you notice,
but it was entertaining.
If you notice, you look at some of the guys, especially the most successful guys of all time, they didn't have to go out there and do all that crazy stuff.
Exactly.
I mean, why? I mean, if you can go out there and sell 5 moves and still be the biggest draw ever, why not go with that?
Exactly.
Right. And that's another thing the Attitude Era sort of kind of, in the WWF, it sort of borrowed from ECW, and that was the chair shots and the tables. Hardcore wrestling.
Yeah, because they did have a real strong hardcore era for about 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
They were doing lots of backstage, and I was involved with a scene with the Nation of Domination where Ahmed Johnson had to try to break the windshield of the car, and he chased us down the street. And I mean, it was we did a lot of physical stuff. So.
Did you ever see, you know how Paul Heyman and the ECW guys would go to WWE? Did you ever see them there, like RVD?
When I was there, who came across there possibly?
Well, you had the Sandman one night. You had
No, I wasn't there when the Sandman and those guys. I think they came like they was talking with them at that time.
Yeah.
You know, you see them backstage.
Rob Van Dam.
Just there for show, but you know. They wasn't there doing anything at that time.
Well, I don't remember if you were there that night at the Manhattan Center, but excuse me, they had some of the ECW guys come in, and they did some shots on the WWF. They had the Sandman there that night. I think maybe Tommy Dreamer. I can't remember for sure. He might have been there.
Sabu was there.
Sabu was yes for sure, and I think RVD I think was there, and Paul Heyman and Jerry Lawler got into a fight. Now, how much of that was a shoot? Do you remember?
I don't really think they like each other. I don't know how they are now, but I know back then it was kind of rivalry.
So that was more
they both had small independent, companies.
Yeah, more of a shoot at that time. Yeah, but. How much does hardcore wrestling really add to the product? I mean, with barbed wire and stuff like that in the fluorescent light tubes that we started seeing in, say, Combat Zone Wrestling, which I think is Circus Zone Wrestling, if you ask me.
I think the knock on ECW was, if you were not part of that, because ECW was a cult. I mean, the fans and the performers, the real hardcore guys like New Jack. You know what I'm saying? The real core of ECW, then it was like a cult. And I think people outside of that couldn't accept it because it was so extreme.
It was so different.
And I think
it was different.
Yeah, and what WWE did, I should say, WWF at the time, what they did was they captured the essence of ECW without the edge. Bringing in the chairs, the kendo sticks,
without
the
too
table
much
matches, without the barbed wire cutting somebody's head open. You can't go there, and I think that was the biggest knock on ECW is that they went too far, and that's not something that you can commercialize.
See, here's the thing, though: they wrestled.
Yeah,
they did wrestle. There were a lot
those
of
guys
great
could work, all of them,
in ECW, as you guys may remember. But CZW, they've taken the worst of ECW and built upon it. Like there's a guy called the Wife Beater for a while, and he used a weed whacker on a wrestler. A weed whacker? My God, give me a break.
Well, you have to do that kind of stuff when it's the opposite. When you don't have the technical skills, when you can't work, when you have to use the props to make the match.
You're not a wrestler.
Whereas the opposite is you work and then use the props as more of a condiment to enhance it.
You know what though? New Jack wasn't even a wrestler, as far as I was concerned.
He was a brawler.
He was a brawler.
He was a thug. I mean, he kind of lived that part.
Yeah.
And it just didn't work.
Same thing with Sandman, but since we're talking about ECW, Jerry Lynn is a guy that, to me, he's a great wrestler.
Oh, yeah. And Rob Van Dam, he's one of my favorites. And he came out of ECW. So, people look at the wrong aspect of it, I think, and bash it. But look at the comparisons of the WWF at the time when they started with their Attitude Era. Remember the Scratch logo? Remember ECW had a barbed wire logo surrounding the letters? You see, there was a comparison there. I think Vince was probably a fan of ECW.
Oh, he definitely
just didn't
was.
want
Yes,
to
he was.
admit
He
to
definitely
it.
was.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. But then what came along with the Attitude Era was the sex. You
Yep.
know, a lot of the scantily clad stuff. I
TNA.
just
Yep.
the
You
TNA.
You got to
of it,
remember at
yes.
that time, a lot of the divas were doing shots with Playboy,
Yeah.
and a lot of photo shoots and calendars were being made.
Yeah.
And it was making a lot of money off of that.
I think
stuff.
Sable was the top diva during the Attitude.
She was.
Exactly.
But
Matter of
she-
fact, she was in Playboy 3 or 4 times.
She
that I'm
Yes, she
couldn't,
was.
mistaken.
but you know, my problem, she couldn't wrestle. She couldn't talk. She couldn't act.
She just looked good.
Yeah, she was eye candy, is all she was. I mean,
And
she
it
couldn't
worked.
even act like she was breathing. I mean,
worked.
that's how.
But it worked for her.
It
It worked.
did work
Right.
for
It
her,
worked.
yes. But for a lot of others, it didn't. And that was the sad part. And I thought some of it was just, you know, some of it went too far occasionally. I mean, how far is too far
Yeah.
in wrestling? I mean, like, to get the people in, obviously, they did go with the Playboy route, and I understand that. But
The Mae Young
couldn't
hand
wrestle.
thing went too far.
yeah, exactly. And there were so many other, giving birth to a hand. Let's give her a hand. That was terrible. You guys remember that?
Yeah.
I mean, that was just downright lousy. And it didn't. What did that do to sell a ticket? Nothing. That didn't sell any tickets. I mean, you know, obviously the sex sells, but it doesn't sell the wrestling part of it.
Right.
You know what I mean? You know, and sometimes it just goes too far. And there were other incidents, obviously, that went too far. And we'll be, you know, exploring those in just a little while. And be sure to join our social media aspects. We're going to be putting those on the screen momentarily. And we're going to have to go to a break right here. And then we'll come back and we have more Wrestling Addicts and discussion about the Attitude Era coming up. So stay with us. Hey everyone, I'm Jimmy Anderson, the host of Wrestling Addicts, right here on the station every single week. I'll be joined by Rafael Guzman, as well as Big Al Rage Walker. And we're going to be here. Wait a second, there's somebody coming on the set. Who are you? Get out of here! Oh, man, what's wrong with you? See, that's why I'm a wrestling addict. And I'll go!
Out of these troubled times, our fifth objective, a new world order can emerge, a new era.
We welcome you back to Wrestling Addicts. As we said, we'll put up the social media information on the screen so I don't have to try to remember it and say it out loud because there's a lot of stuff to type out. So anyway, you guys take a look at that. And obviously, things went too far occasionally with the Attitude Era, but we'll get into that in just a little while. First, before I forget, I want to bring up something that really changed the product, and that was Vince McMahon becoming an on-air character.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
You know, with the
Yes.
Austin
Yes.
McMahon thing,
Yes.
that's one of the greatest
Yes, it was.
feuds
Yes.
that really started selling tickets. And the night that he wrestled Austin for the world title after WrestleMania, that was the first time that Raw beat Nitro in 80-plus straight weeks.
Now, do you guys remember when Vince first came involved with getting involved with the action? Do you guys remember that when he did it?
When
With
he
the Mr.
started
McMahon
wrestling?
character?
Yeah.
Yes.
When?
Sure.
Do y'all remember what?
I don't remember exactly.
Just after
what
the
episode.
Survivor Series, I feel is when it kind of started. When
I
he
think
stopped
it was after
announcing.
the screw job, to be
That's
honest.
what I thought.
I think that's when his
perpetrated.
character
Think about when Steve Austin came out when Mike Tyson was there.
Yeah.
That too.
Yep.
That
too.
was it right there. 'Cause you know
That was the boiling point of it.
Yeah.
that,
Right.
Yeah. When Vince came down and said you screwed everything up, and he tried to fight Stone Cold. That was the beginning of.
He
those
started
two.
kicking at him. Remember
Yep.
that? You ruined it. You ruined it.
Yeah,
Damn it.
I mean-
You ruined it.
Yep.
Anyway.
Yep.
That's one thing I started to miss was his announcing on Raw because I had always gotten accustomed to him.
How about the
to him
first
doing
time that Stone Cold Steve Austin gave him the stunner?
Yes, sir.
That was awesome.
I'll never
Yeah.
forget the date, September 22nd, 1997,
Oh
Madison
man, you
Square
definitely
Garden.
a wrestling addict.
I am. I gotta
Wow.
be. I mean, to do that, that's what it was. And he gave him the stutter after Austin was.
Was it an injury angle or something that they were doing? at
Yeah,
the time?
that's exactly right.
Right.
It was after Owen Hart accidentally, dropped him on his neck with the
Right.
tombstone that went wrong. The inverted tombstone.
What was it?
sit-out
Owen,
tombstone.
what did his shirt say?
Owen 316 says I broke your neck.
Neck, yeah.
Yeah.
But they had the police in there trying to restrain Austin and everything like that. And then Vince McMahon tried to talk some sense into him. And then just when he thought he had Austin, at bay, he decides, bam, kicks him, stunner.
Then he flips on a bird.
Flips him and gets arrested.
I think that's if I remember. I think that's the first time I remember him drinking beer in the ring too.
No, I don't think he
You don't
drank
think-
there.
You don't think he drank? I don't,
No, they cuffed him.
Well, I think the beer. No, the beer came a little bit later on. But
later.
that's another thing. Like,
Yeah.
who thought of drinking beer in the ring? You know?
You know what? You're talking about drinking beer. The coolest thing was when he drove that
beer truck.
and he sprayed the corporation. That was awesome.
Very creative. Very creative.
Yeah.
I mean, who would ever thought somebody bring a whole beer truck to the doggone show and then spray everybody in the ring? That
And if you look at the fans, they were trying to get some of that
they
beer.
was trying to get some of that beer, hey, spray me.
And then the coolest thing is, for those that don't understand how Hollywood works, that's what's called product placement. That's something
Yes.
that they did in the Attitude Era better than any other time. It's like they would bring things in that are part of their sponsorship deals.
That's right.
You wouldn't even know it.
That's right.
Drinking the Budweisers. Budweiser was one of their major sponsors. And he
It
drank
was.
Budweiser
I
right
bet their
there.
stock was high during that
Oh,
time.
you better believe it.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
That's one of the things, Al Rage, you mentioned was that Vince was taking chances.
You're right.
And that was a big chance to drive out a beer truck
I
and
mean,
start
look
spraying
at it this
on
way. You got live TV.
Yeah.
You got your sponsor's truck on live TV. You spraying beer on everybody. I mean, what better way to give your sponsors the best advertisement ever than to spray beer on everybody? And then you got the truck out there with a big logo and everything on it.
That's better than a commercial.
I mean,
is.
yeah,
That's an
exactly.
iconic piece.
That's-
You're gonna always remember.
You can
him
always
standing
remember
on
that.
truck, knocking down those beers at the.
And if I was a beer
corporation.
drinker, it made me want to go get a big, tall 45
Yeah.
round.
Big old Steve Weiser.
Yeah.
Remember
Yeah.
that?
Yeah.
But, I don't know if y'all remember this, just a little detail, that when he drove the beer truck to the ring, he hit it. He almost knocked the ring over.
Yep.
You remember that?
Yep. And he almost knocked the
It
Titantron down too because
Yeah.
the Titantron was the clearance
Yes.
wasn't high enough, so he almost.
Yeah, it kind of swung like
Yeah.
that, but then it went back. I was like, ooh, that was
Yeah.
close.
Yep.
Now, I think WrestleMania 14 really solidified the Attitude Era at that time. You remember they had the DX band. They had that was the one with Shawn Michaels and Stone Cold Steve Austin in the main event, where Mike Tyson was the referee, and that was Austin's big moment to shine.
Oh, yes.
And that's kind of where the McMahon-Austin feud really started.
You know what was cool? After that night when Triple H took over DX,
That's
Shawn
right. Mm-hmm.
Michaels was injured. When X-Pac came out, that place went nuts.
I know,
nuts.
and
Yeah.
it was so unexpected. I didn't see it coming either.
And he actually shot on Hogan and Bischoff.
Oh, he did.
Like he did like a shoot.
I'll never forget the quote, and Chuck listening in the booth, I know he'll remember it, is that Eric Bischoff was, can I say what I,
saying.
Okay, that was so far.
This is an Attitude Era show.
Okay, well then I'll go for it. That Eric Bischoff was so far up everyone's ass that he knew what you had for breakfast. Was he not?
Wow.
He's talking about Hulk Hogan at that time.
That too.
Yeah.
But then he mentioned, I love his quote that your ass is grass and I'm coming to smoke it. I mean, they were really starting to take chances.
Yeah.
Because you know what happened is that X-Pac got fired by
Yes.
fax.
That was so stupid.
And then Hogan.
Wow.
Hogan
So did Austin.
Sure
Remember
did.
that?
and Hogan said on Nitro that he couldn't cut the mustard.
Thunder. But yeah.
On
I
Thunder,
remember
yeah.
that. Yes, absolutely. It was him and was it Scott Hall? Where
It was NWO.
It was the NWO,
Yeah.
yeah. And see, that's another thing. They were running that NWO story too long. Remember Starrcade 97, Sting and Hogan? Had they kind of maybe ended the NWO there, it would have made a little bit of sense because Sting won.
I think where they went wrong with NWO is they started adding all these factions.
Yeah.
Should have kept it simple. NWO was Hall, Nash, and Hogan.
Like 98 was when it was big, huh?
Now, wait, now, X-Pac or Six-Pac at the time, he fit.
Yeah, he fit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Maybe
leave it
4
there.
or 5 or 6, maybe 4 or 5.
Yeah, because everybody started having their own little organizations.
Yep.
It was hard
And
to follow. It didn't make sense.
You have all these different colors and all that.
Yeah, it got out of control.
When they split it up was when it really hurt.
Yep.
And they kept running with that. And then they had Bill Goldberg. Now, that really was something they could have utilized even more than they did. And they did for a little while. He even won the belt. But then at Starrcade that year in 98, well, I know we're jumping around, but they did the taser stick thing, and Kevin Nash had to win the belt. That's another, I don't think wrestlers should be given the book. You know what I mean? Because he was booking at the time.
I think
wasn't
Kevin
he?
Nash was in control at the time,
Yes,
right?
he was.
You know,
Yes, he
what, I
was.
mean, what do you think as a wrestler? Should a wrestler be given the book?
No, because of the simple fact that when you give a wrestler that kind of power, then as you can see, a lot of good talent can be swept underneath the carpet. I don't know if you guys remember Scott Pusky.
Yes,
Now,
absolutely.
he was over there, and he was getting beat down every night. I mean, it was a shame.
That's right.
Scott is a great wrestler,
He was.
and he shouldn't have got treated the way he did or whatever. But because guys had personal feelings or whatever, you know, they destroyed his character.
Oh, most definitely. And now here's an example of an idea gone terribly wrong that maybe could have been right. And this is in the WWF I'm talking about. And that was the Brawl for All. You guys remember Brawl for All?
Oh, that boxing?
The boxing
Yeah.
tournament, the boxing shoot fighting
Right.
type tournament.
Yeah.
And people were getting injured.
Yep.
You know,
Yeah.
because it really was shooting.
Right.
It was real. They weren't playing around with that.
Right.
And, you know, it went wrong. And they thought that Steve Williams, Dr. Death, was going to win the whole thing. And then guess what? Bart Gunn,
Knocked
big
him out.
left.
Well, Butterbean knocked his ass out.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
WrestleMania the next year. in
Yeah.
99.
Right.
But he did win the Brawl for All tournament. And then, like you said, he got squashed by Butterbean in a
Right.
boxing match. Proving the whole thing just
Was a joke.
went to hell in a handbasket.
Yeah.
You know?
Like I said, Vince would try anything he feels is going to work.
Yeah.
He's not afraid to fail. He's not afraid to try something new they can add on and get another angle going.
Yeah.
I think the biggest fail he had was that XFL. That was just horrible.
Yeah, a couple of years
That's like
later.
an insult to the NFL.
Why do you say? I liked the XFL to an extent.
The concept was just the execution was terrible.
Yeah.
Didn't they do it with where you have to run and catch
Now,
the ball? or
now
something?
they
scramble
had
for
some-
the ball, yes,
Yeah, I'll give them this. They had some great ideas, like
They did.
things such as the zip line cam.
Yeah,
Actually,
that was the
that's
first
an
ones that
XFL
came out with
product.
that. NFL uses
The,
that right
the
now.
NFL they took that from them. Now I think they went too far with the cornball stuff, like the gimmick names on the back of jerseys and stuff like that. But you know, at the time football was already starting to get soft.
Yeah.
They had an opportunity, but where I think he went wrong was trying to go head to head with the NFL. That's wrong.
Yeah.
The XFL could have been a viable alternative during the NFL offseason.
I don't know
Another
about
thing. Another thing is, if you're gonna do
That's
pro
right.
football, do pro football. You can't take wrestler commentators
Right.
Thank you.
and then have
Yeah.
them put football commentators. It don't work.
Jim Ross could not adapt to and he had done football before I understand.
Oklahoma University.
Years ago.
Yeah.
But
He's
he
Oklahoma
was
University.
doing it as a wrestling announcer.
Yep.
Right.
Can't-
Oh my God! Oh my God!
Yeah, I was-
no, I
Good
don't.
God Almighty!
I don't want to
They
hear
flipped
that in my football. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Yeah.
It's a cyberknife.
I love JR as a commentator for wrestling.
Me
but
too. Yeah.
Not for
No.
And you had Jesse Ventura doing color.
Yeah.
Nah, just didn't. But then they kind of wised up and they brought Matt Vasgersian back in. You remember Matt Vasgersian? Now he was a football announcer, And as sports announcer in general, he's one of the best. And, you know, I don't think the XFL would have worked anyway because everybody was bashing it.
Well,
ESPN,
you know,
they weren't.
they had the.
I love the idea, though.
They had the bandwidth because they had the network deals. Like I said, trying to compete literally at the same time with the NFL is wrong. You do it as an off-season alternative when football junkies like me don't have a product to
Great
watch.
Morpheus
because,
over there.
You know, we don't want to watch arena football. I played indoor football, but I don't want to watch it. I'm sorry. You know, it'd be something that you have a short season during the NFL offseason. It would have been a good, solid, you know, alternative to the.
Did some of the XFL players become wrestlers?
No,
I don't think
a
so.
couple of them did go
pros.
to the NFL. Like he hate me played a couple of years.
Some of them were like job
Tommy
Tommy
Maddox.
Tommy
became
Maddox,
the
winning quarterback
for the Steelers.
Yeah, he won the XFL with the LA Extreme. His team won the big
He took
$1
Cordell
million
Stewart's job.
tournament.
Go
You know.
figure.
Yeah. But just getting back to the wrestling for a minute. Remember some of the weird things they were doing, like in 1998 when Austin kidnapped McMahon? Do you remember that? And then pulled the gun, and it said "Bang 316" on it.
That was hilarious.
I like when he came into the hospital and beat his leg. That was.
Oh yeah. The debut of Mr. Sacco.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And I tell you what, we're going to have to run to a break here pretty soon, but after that we'll talk about what possibly could have been the ending of WCW on January the 4th, 1999. I know some people probably do remember that. It happened to do with this finger at a chest, and it happened to do with two wrestlers who had no business being in the ring at that particular time. And we're going to come back and talk about that and much more right here on Wrestling Addicts. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Hey everyone, I'm Jimmy Anderson, the host of Wrestling Addicts right here on the station every single week. I'll be joined by Rafael Guzman as well as Big Al Rage Walker. And we're going to be here. Wait a second, there's somebody coming on the set. Who are you? Get out of here! Oh, man, what's wrong with you? See, that's why I'm a wrestling addict. And I'll go!
Out of these troubled times, our fifth objective, a new world order can emerge, a new era.
Welcome back to Wrestling Addicts. We're going to have to wrap it up here in just a little while, but first, let's get to what possibly killed WCW. And that was the finger poke of doom, what I was alluding to before the commercial break. And I'm embarrassed about that for a couple of reasons. One of which, being a wrestling fan, you don't deserve to see something like that. And the second thing was that I fell for their ploy. Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you what, remember, Tony Schiavone was instructed by Eric Bischoff to stay tuned to Nitro because a pre-taped Raw had Mick Foley winning the WWF Championship from The Rock. Now, I'm going to be completely honest. Then the fact that I was getting tired of The Rock and Mick Foley and Austin always being in the main events, and I thought, Hulk Hogan's coming back. Wow, I haven't seen him wrestle in just a little while, so, you know, maybe this will be an exciting match. And they had Goldberg arrested, which really didn't make any sense anyway because they had bad writing. Yeah. But then Hogan pokes Nash, wins the belt.
Plop.
And Goldberg gets tased again as he gets out of jail, and the NWOs form together. Again, they relied too much on the NWO, and that really was sort of the boiling point for me with WCW. Yeah. I don't know about you guys, but I just couldn't stand that they did that, and to this day, I'm embarrassed that I kept it on for the finger poke. Now, I did see some of Mick Foley's match. I did see that, and the crowd popped huge when Austin came out, which nobody expected at the time, you know, and so to me, that was just an insult to the fans and an insult to
nobody expected him to pin him just like that after the finger poke of doom that you said. But it was just one of those things that at that time the surprise element was there in wrestling, whereas now it's not.
Right.
Yeah.
Bischoff has some off the wall ideas, but I have to say, you know, he was the ultimate equalizer in the Attitude Era.
Yeah.
Because without, you know, sometimes he did a great job. Sometimes he was way out there and he sucked. But you know, the thing that he brought to the table was that you never knew what to expect of him. So he kept the WWF on their heels.
He did.
He kept them sharp. They knew that they had to bring it because they never knew what else he was going to try to pull. Yeah. And another thing that could have turned the tide in WCW's favor permanently, had he been successful in trying to sign Triple H in WCW, I think that would have turned the tide. WCW's favor.
But instead, it worked the other way with Chris Jericho signed with the WWF.
And then they snowballed from there. And then Malenko and Perry Saturn and Guerrero.
Chris Benoit.
And once that came over, that was WCW. That was
it.
Once those guys came over, they were done.
You know what? Vince Russo was with WWF at the time when it was successful during the Attitude Era. But a lot of people say he's the one that killed WCW.
He's definitely one of the ones.
Honestly, and this is the Vince McMahon factor. Yeah. I'm sort of a conspiracy theorist. It wouldn't surprise me if under the scenes that Vince planted Russo in WCW to kill it.
I thought of the
Vince
same.
He's that kind of guy.
I thought of the same thing. I have thought of the same.
Because you think about the writing the complete direction change that happened when Russo got there. It's like, where'd this come from? You know, a lot of these things just didn't start to make sense.
But see, here's the difference with WCW and WWF. See, when Russo was working for Vince, whatever Russo wrote, Vince had to approve of it.
Correct.
It's a big difference. Whereas in WCW, it's free fall. Look at this idea. I like it. Y'all like it? Okay, let's go with it. So it's a difference. So the best of Russo came because Vince had to approve of it.
Yeah.
Whereas when Russo got to WCW, he could do whatever he wanted.
Didn't Vince Russo come up with like a couple of ideas, or like maybe 1,000 ideas, and Vince McMahon took maybe one of them?
Exactly, that's
and
him.
Made it his way.
I've seen Vince spend $100,000 on a commercial for WWF, and the guy turned his film and he looked at it for 10 seconds. I don't like it. Take it back.
Jeez.
Wow.
Now,
if it wasn't up to his level, that was it.
That's another thing Vince knew, marketing.
Oh, no doubt.
Now, here's a missed example. Let's go back to 1998 for a second at WCW. I don't know if you guys know this story. Being a sports Morpheus, you remember Mark McGuire and Sammy Sosa's home run.
Yep, the home run chase.
Home run chase.
Yeah.
Now, Bill Goldberg was there for Mark McGuire's 70th home run hit. And I think for good luck, he rubbed the bat with his hand or rubbed it on his chest or something before he went up and hit the home run. You know who was there for WCW to cover that?
I don't remember who was there.
No one.
Yeah.
Not one person was there to cover that. Nobody.
Now, had that been WWF,
they would have taken it.
It would have definitely, because that's free PR.
That's the problem. WCW didn't know what the hell they were doing. Sorry, but they didn't, at times. And with that, they could have made Bill Goldberg even more of an enigma. He helped Mark McGuire get his 70th home run. He's the world champion. He's been undefeated. But no.
And then you could have turned around and brought Mark McGuire on Monday Night Nitro.
Yeah.
Could have brought him right there on Nitro with the bat and everything.
Yes.
Could have had him run an angle where he
Exactly.
hit somebody in the stomach with the same bat he hit the home run with.
Yep.
They could have went wild with that.
Which, by the way, that story comes from Bobby the Brain Heenan. I just want to make that clear. I didn't read that on the internet because a lot of what you read on the internet may not be true necessarily. So that came in a shoot interview, by the way, that he did with Rob Feinstein and RF Video. And, you know.
They did bring in some basketball players at the time, though.
Oh,
Yes.
God.
Oh, they
Jay
brought in
Leno
Karl
and-
Malone.
No,
and
the
Dennis
Karl
Rodman.
Malone.
Karl Malone, right.
And they brought in,
And Dennis Rodman also.
remember when they brought in Jay Leno?
Yes, they
freaking
brought Jay Leno in.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what
They
I think.
hijacked the Tonight Show.
What I think was the most epic fail in WCW history is when they made David Arquette the champion.
Oh, I know. That was the end.
And he
wasn't
was
it?
the 1-800
You know
call
what?
that
Maybe
TV guy.
that's what killed WCW.
That killed it. That was
That
just
helped,
like
yeah.
that kind of writing. That's what I'm saying. It's like
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Get a shot over here.
I would have smashed my own TV if I'd have saw that. I'm glad I didn't,
You didn't
see
see
that.
it?
No, I'm
I
Vince,
did
you
wanna
know,
ask you a
Vince
question,
Russo
though.
became the champion.
As a
too.
professional wrestler, how does that make you feel? That they did that?
It's like working for a major company, and you've done all you can for this company, and everybody recognizes how good of a quality of product you are, and it's time for you to get that promotion, and they just get a kid off the street, say, hey, you come here. You're the champ now. Can you imagine that?
That's ridiculous.
It's absolutely ridiculous. And they don't realize that, okay, you might have insulted me, but you put a big old hole in this ship, and it's about to sink. Because now you're disrespecting the fans that pay their hard-earned money to come and watch this stuff.
Yeah.
You know, it's crazy.
I think he supposedly Vince Russo said that he did it because of the ratings at the time. And
You want ratings to go backwards or forward?
Exactly.
Because if you're trying to make it go forward, he definitely didn't do that.
like we mentioned earlier, it was an attempt at product placement because AT&T was one of their sponsors, but it was a failed attempt. It wasn't like the
Exactly.
beer truck. It was the
No.
opposite. It was corny.
What? Yeah. Now let's go back to the WWF for a second. I want to mention this is that they had more stars, didn't they? Other than just the like the Austins, the McFoleys, the Rocks, and whatnot. They were starting to push other guys like Test and
Job Squad.
yeah, the Job Squad and Al Snow and
Absolutely.
guys
Acolytes.
like that. And then they brought in Stephanie and all that stuff. Remember when she was like the sweet, innocent, naive daughter of Vince? And even Shane had a good story with Vince. You know, that
Shane's
corporation.
Shane they had a good run.
They had some good stories. You know, even the engagement with Steph and Test was.
And when Steph turned heel, I think that was a great storyline because when they had the drug-induced wedding, and it was like, oh, everybody felt, oh, poor Stephanie. Then she turned around and was like the complete.
You know what? That makes no sense to me.
You don't think so? I thought.
Why
that was
would they
great.
drug her?
great.
Why would they drug her up? And then she just all of a sudden loves Triple H.
I mean, that was the DX appeal.
Yep,
I mean, that was the whole thing
exactly.
that made
I didn't get
DX
it.
great. Is that
Exactly.
DX was, expect the unexpected.
Yep.
Well, at the time, Triple H was trying to take over, so that
Yeah.
storyline-wise, that's how it helped him take
And
over.
that's where I started getting disinterested because it was the Stephanie and Triple H show every single week. It got old.
I loved
I
the
loved
McMahon
it.
Helms Dearly.
Yeah, I did too.
Really?
I did. I loved it.
I loved him.
I loved it.
I didn't. I'm sorry. I didn't care for it as much as you guys did, obviously. Because that to me, I mean, she's drugged up, almost, and then the wedding happens in Vegas, and then, bam, that's all over with. Now,
Drama. That's what made it.
Yeah, I understand the motive was that, she was kidnapped by The Undertaker and all that satanic stuff, and that Vince let it happen as the higher power or whatever that was, whatever he called himself. And, so she was rebelling against her father in that respect, but the drugged up part didn't make sense.
But that storyline took like 2 years to evolve.
Yep.
I mean, that was very creative.
Yep.
The way
It
they
was.
Now, if
rolled
she
it out.
had have said that she faked the drugging up, that would have made more sense to me.
Nah,
No, really?
I think it was done
I
right.
think it was done right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It definitely went over with the crowd.
Now, while we have just a couple minutes left here, what are your guys' favorite moments of the Attitude Era?
I can tell you mine.
Yeah.
The Rock, This Is Your Life segment.
The highest rated segment in
Yes.
Monday Night Raw history,
Yep.
by the way.
Yes.
What about yours?
For me, I like the whole. This is probably something that you guys might have forgotten. I like when Crash Holly was the hardcore champion. They started the 24-hour rule. I thought that was just so funny. Those vignettes were just hilarious, man.
Oh gosh, you got a favorite?
Of course, my favorite is A Nation of Domination.
Oh yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Secretly at home, I wanted to do one of these things every time I saw it. It was just a fun thing. I don't know if I have. I just love 1999 in general with Triple H getting into his own and now finally becoming a legitimate character.
Yeah.
And I know it's kind of sick, but I like the Big Boss Man, Big Show.
Oh, wow.
You know, since it was a story.
That shoot that he
I
did,
remember
that
that.
Big Boss Man did with the funeral at Big Show's father's funeral, that was classic.
Has that ever been done before? No. Huh?
No.
My favorite part, though, was the poem he read, the sympathy card. What was it? With the deepest regrets and tears that are soaked. What was it? I'm sorry to hear your dad finally croaked. He lived a full life on his own terms, and soon he'll be buried and eaten by worms. So things like that were just
Well,
classic.
also he made Al Snow eat his dog.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God!
wow,
Yes, the
yeah.
Chihuahua named Pepper. Yeah.
Yep.
We got to start wrapping it up. Another one I remember was Al Snow and Steve Blackman teaming up. Remember
Head Cheese.
Head Cheese, yeah. And the whole thing where Steve Blackman did comedy.
Yeah.
What's the deal with airline food? I haven't had peanuts this bad since Charles Schultz was still alive. And that was at a nursing home. And somebody shouted, "You stink, black man!" Oh, gosh. I tell you what, we could go on, but we're going to have to start wrapping it up. And for Richard Walker and Rafael Guzman and Big Al Rage Walker over here, I'm Jimmy Anderson, reminding you that the best addictions are the safest addictions. So keep clean and stay safe. We'll see you next time right here on Wrestling Addicts. Goodbye, everybody.
before